30 years ago, a sun-drenched hike into the heart of Yosemite National Park was meant to be an adventure, a shared dream for a young American couple. It was the summer of 1994, a time brimming with possibility. When they set out, their backpacks filled with provisions and their hearts with anticipation, they were drawn to the raw, untamed beauty of Yosemite, a landscape of towering granite cliffs, ancient sequoias, and cascading waterfalls, a place that promised both challenge and serenity. Their decision to venture off the beaten path, to seek out a more secluded experience within this vast wilderness, was born from a love of exploration and a desire to connect with nature on a profound level. Little did they know, this pursuit of the extraordinary would lead them into a profound mystery, one that would echo through decades, leaving behind a void filled only by speculation and the enduring ache of unanswered questions. Their story is not just about two individuals lost. It's a stark reminder of the immense power of nature, its capacity to both inspire awe and command respect, and the delicate balance between human ambition and the wild. This narrative isn't simply about a disappearance. It's about the lingering echoes of a life interrupted, the meticulous and often heartbreaking process of searching for the absent, and the unexpected ways the past can resurface, offering fragments of truth from the silence of time. We will delve into the initial allure of Yosemite, the growing unease as days turned into weeks without word, and the subsequent exhaustive search efforts that ultimately yielded nothing but despair. Then we will pivot to the astonishing discovery made 3 decades later, a find so unexpected it reopened old wounds and ignited a fresh wave of fascination and sorrow. Within a hidden cave, undisturbed by the passage of time, lay their sealed tent, a poignant and chilling time capsule. This artifact, preserved against the elements, offers a tantalizing, albeit silent, testimony to their final moments, a tangible link to their last known hours. Our journey will be guided by expert analysis, piecing together the scant clues left behind, and enriched by archival footage that captures the spirit of the era and the intensity of the initial search. Dramatic recreations will help us visualize their final days, attempting to understand the choices they made and the circumstances they faced. We will also explore the profound and enduring grief of their loved ones, the families who have carried this burden of uncertainty for 30 years, and the haunting beauty of Yosemite itself, the very landscape that both captivated their spirits and perhaps ultimately consumed them. This is a story that resonates with anyone who has ever felt the pull of the wild, the thrill of discovery, or the pain of loss, a testament to the enduring human need for closure and the mysteries that nature so often keeps. It's a narrative that reminds us that even in the most remote corners of our world, the echoes of human lives can persist, waiting for the right moment to be heard. The initial spark for this exploration lies in the sheer improbability of their rediscovery, a discovery that forces us to confront the passage of time and the resilience of memory. We are drawn into this story by the universal human fascination with the unknown, with the stories that remain unfinished, and with the enduring power of nature to shape our destinies. The sheer volume of the wilderness, its capacity to absorb and conceal, presents a formidable challenge to our understanding, inviting us to consider the limits of our knowledge and the enduring power of the natural world. This is not a tale of simple survival or a tragic accident. It is a complex tapestry woven with threads of adventure, mystery, grief, and the profound impact of an unforgiving environment. The initial disappearance, shrouded in the vastness of Yosemite, set in motion a chain of events that would continue to unfold, albeit silently, for 3 decades. The subsequent discovery, a seemingly impossible revelation, serves as a powerful catalyst, compelling us to revisit the past with fresh eyes and a renewed sense of purpose. We are compelled to ask, What truly happened in those final hours? What secrets does the wilderness hold? And what can this story teach us about ourselves and our relationship with the natural world? The very act of discovery after so much time is itself a profound event, a testament to the persistence of clues and the enduring hope for resolution. It's a story that begins with a dream of adventure and culminates in a chilling yet ultimately illuminating encounter with the past. The initial allure of Yosemite for this couple wasn't merely about escaping the mundane. It was a deliberate embrace of a specific kind of adventure, one characterized by self-reliance and immersion in a largely unmanaged environment. Their choice to venture off designated trails, while seemingly a simple deviation, represented a profound philosophical stance towards experiencing nature. This wasn't casual tourism, it was an intentional pursuit of raw, unfiltered wilderness. They likely sought the profound quietude that only remote landscapes can offer, a stark contrast to the burgeoning connectivity and noise of the mid-1990s. The park's reputation as a sanctuary for solitude, coupled with its dramatic geological features, provided the perfect canvas for this aspiration. Their preparation, while undoubtedly thorough for the time, would have been based on established wilderness practices that in retrospect might not have fully accounted for the unique challenges of Yosemite's more inaccessible regions. Think about how many of us, when venturing into less traveled areas, rely on a certain level of preparedness, yet the wilderness itself always retains an element of the unpredictable, a capacity to test those preparations in ways we can't always foresee. This couple's decision to push beyond the familiar routes speaks to a deeper desire to test their own mettle against the elements, a common human drive when confronted with the sublime power of nature. Furthermore, understanding the operational context of search and rescue in national parks during the mid-90s is crucial. While sophisticated technology existed, the scale and ruggedness of Yosemite presented immense logistical hurdles. Search teams, often comprised of dedicated volunteers and park rangers, would have relied heavily on grid searches, aerial reconnaissance, and interviews with other park visitors. The sheer immensity of Yosemite, covering over 750,000 acres, meant that even with considerable effort, vast tracts of terrain could remain thoroughly unexamined. Consider the challenges of navigating dense forest, steep canyons, and high-altitude plateaus. Each step of a search operation would be a painstaking process. The absence of any immediate electronic communication devices, commonplace today, further compounded the difficulties. Their disappearance occurred in an era where a lost hiker's primary hope for rescue lay in being found by another party or making their way back to a known trail. The park's wild character, its ability to swallow sounds and obscure sightlines, meant that even a distress signal might go unheard. This period was marked by a reliance on traditional search methods, which, while effective in many cases, were inherently limited by the sheer scale of the environment and the absence of modern tracking capabilities. The psychological toll on the searchers, the constant battle against dwindling hope, and the overwhelming vastness of their task cannot be overstated. The specific geological features of Yosemite's backcountry played a significant role in the initial search and subsequent mystery. Many areas, particularly off-trail, are characterized by immense granite domes, sheer cliffs, and deep, often inaccessible canyons. These features not only make navigation challenging, but also create unique microclimates and potential hiding places. For instance, a small, concealed cave or a dense thicket of trees could easily conceal a tent or the evidence of a campsite, remaining undetected even during close proximity searches. The park's dynamic nature, with rockfalls and seasonal changes in vegetation, can also alter the landscape, potentially obscuring or even moving evidence over time. Imagine a small fissure in a rock face, easily overlooked from a distance, yet capable of providing shelter. Or consider the dense undergrowth that can obscure human activity from aerial view. The very grandeur that drew the couple in also served as a formidable barrier to their discovery. The search teams would have been acutely aware of these challenges, knowing that their efforts, however exhaustive, were always battling against the park's inherent ability to conceal. This inherent challenge of the terrain meant that any discovery, especially one made decades later, would be nothing short of remarkable, hinting at a level of concealment that surpassed even the most diligent search efforts. The park's wildness, therefore, was not merely a backdrop, but an active participant in the unfolding narrative of their disappearance. The discovery of the sealed tent, a relic from a bygone era, fundamentally shifted the nature of the investigation from one of active search to meticulous forensic analysis. This wasn't merely finding a campsite, it was unearthing a frozen moment in time. The very act of preservation, the tent being sealed, suggests an intentionality, a deliberate effort to protect its contents, whether from the elements or from prying eyes. Consider the scientific techniques that would have been employed. Advanced radiocarbon dating to confirm the tent's age, DNA analysis to potentially identify the couple if any biological material remained, and even chemical analysis of any residual substances within the tent or its immediate vicinity. This forensic approach moves beyond speculation, seeking concrete, albeit often limited evidence. Now think about how this process mirrors investigations in other fields, like archaeology or even cold case homicides, where minute details can unlock decades-old secrets. The preservation state of the tent itself becomes a primary clue, prompting questions about why it was sealed and by whom. Was it a desperate attempt to safeguard personal effects before venturing further, or was it a more deliberate act related to their final moments? Examining the tent's material, its stitching, any manufacturer's labels could also provide clues about its age and origin, potentially corroborating or challenging other timeline estimations. Furthermore, the context of wilderness camping practices in the mid-1990s offers a critical lens through which to interpret the tent's condition. While the couple sought an adventurous experience, the prevailing wisdom regarding backcountry safety emphasized leaving no trace, but also proper gear maintenance and storage. A tent, particularly one intended for extended use in potentially harsh conditions, would typically be aired out and properly stored to prevent mildew and degradation. The fact that this tent was found sealed, especially within a cave, suggests it was deliberately put away. Was it perhaps to protect it from an impending storm, a decision that might have inadvertently led to their separation from it? Or was it a more organized, if ultimately tragic, packing of belongings? Understanding the typical wear and tear on outdoor equipment from that era and comparing it to the condition of the discovered tent could reveal subtle indicators about its last use. For instance, were there signs of rapid packing or a more methodical process? The integrity of the zipper, the state of the fabric, any condensation marks, all become potential data points in reconstructing the final hours. Building upon this, the location of the cave itself becomes a paramount piece of evidence. Its inaccessibility, its remoteness from any established trails, forces us to consider the couple's movements in the days leading up to their disappearance. Did they intentionally seek out this specific cave for shelter, or did they stumble upon it? The geological characteristics of the cave, its size, depth, any signs of prior human habitation or animal activity can offer further context. Were there any other personal items found within or near the cave that might have been separated from the tent? The nature of the cave's entrance and interior would also inform theories about how the tent was placed there. Was it dragged, carried, or carefully positioned? Now consider how the discovery of such a well-preserved artifact in such a secluded natural repository challenges our assumptions about how quickly evidence degrades in the wilderness. It highlights the potential for certain microclimates or geological formations to act as natural time capsules, preserving remnants of human activity for extended periods, often in ways that defy conventional expectations. This preservation also raises the ethical considerations of disturbing such a site, balancing the pursuit of knowledge with respect for the deceased and the sanctity of the location. The concept of sealed is also crucial here. What does sealed truly imply in this context? Was it zipped shut or perhaps secured with additional material like ropes or tarps to create a more complete barrier against the elements? Each interpretation of sealed leads to different hypotheses about the couple's intentions and their state of mind. If it was merely zipped, it suggests a standard, albeit perhaps hasty, packing procedure. If it was more elaborately sealed, it might imply a more deliberate decision to leave the tent behind, perhaps with the expectation of returning, or with a more profound understanding of their situation. The integrity of the seal itself, whether it was breached by natural forces or had to be carefully opened by the discovery team, is another layer of detail that could offer interpretive value. Think about the difference between finding a backpack left open on a trail versus one meticulously packed and stored away. The former might suggest an unexpected departure, while the latter could imply a more planned, even if ultimately failed, strategy. Moreover, the psychological state of individuals facing extreme wilderness conditions is a vital, albeit indirect, aspect to consider when analyzing such a discovery. While we can't definitively know their thoughts, the way their possessions were left can offer subtle hints. Were they in a state of panic, leading to disorganized packing, or did they maintain a degree of order amidst adversity? The presence of certain items packed and others left behind, or the arrangement of sleeping bags and supplies within the tent, could potentially reflect their priorities and their perceived level of risk. Now consider how our own reactions to stressful situations often manifest in our organizational habits. Some individuals become hyper-focused and methodical, while others descend into chaos. The state of the tent, therefore, isn't just about material evidence. It's a silent reflection of the human element, the emotional and mental landscape of the couple in their final hours. This makes the forensic examination not just a scientific endeavor, but an exercise in empathetic reconstruction, attempting to understand the human experience within the stark reality of the natural world. The analysis of the tent's contents extends beyond mere material composition. It delves into the subtle psychological indicators of the couple's mindset during their final days. Imagine finding not just clothes, but perhaps a journal with entries that abruptly cease, or a map with specific routes marked and then strangely disregarded. Such items, when meticulously examined, can offer profound insights into their decision-making processes. For instance, if their food supplies were neatly organized but unused, it might suggest they were incapacitated before they could consume them, rather than simply choosing to ration. Conversely, if certain food items were missing, it could point to their consumption, indicating they were active and rationing for an extended period. Now, consider how our own possessions often reflect our internal states. A meticulously organized workspace versus a cluttered one can speak volumes about our mental clarity. In this context, the arrangement of their personal effects within the tent becomes a silent narrative, a testament to their priorities, their hopes, and perhaps their growing anxieties. Furthermore, the geological context of the cave's discovery offers a crucial layer of interpretation regarding the couple's movements and their rationale for seeking shelter there. If the cave is deep and offers significant protection from the elements, it might imply a deliberate search for refuge from an impending severe weather event. Conversely, if it's a shallow overhang, it could suggest a more opportunistic, perhaps even hasty decision to rest or shelter briefly. Think about how a sudden downpour can force even experienced hikers to seek immediate cover, often in the nearest available shelter, regardless of its suitability for extended stays. The presence or absence of signs of prolonged habitation within the cave, smoothed earth from sleeping, remnants of a fire pit, or discarded items, would further illuminate whether this was a planned stop or a reaction to an unforeseen circumstance. The precise nature of the sealing itself is a critical point of divergence for hypotheses. If the tent was simply zipped closed, it aligns with standard practice for securing gear. However, if additional materials, such as ropes or tarps, were used to create a more robust seal, it suggests a more deliberate effort to protect the tent and its contents from external factors, perhaps extreme cold, moisture, or even animal intrusion. Picture the difference between closing a window during a light rain versus boarding it up before a hurricane. The level of effort indicates a vastly different perceived threat. This distinction is vital for understanding whether the couple intended to return to the tent, or if they were making a more permanent arrangement for its storage. Moreover, understanding the limitations of wilderness survival knowledge in the mid-1990s provides essential context. While the couple was likely experienced, the specific challenges presented by Yosemite's backcountry might have been underestimated. The park's varied elevations create distinct ecological zones, each with its own set of potential hazards, from sudden temperature drops at higher altitudes to flash floods in canyon bottoms. Consider how even today, with advanced weather forecasting, unexpected microclimates can develop in mountainous regions, catching unprepared individuals off guard. The couple's decision-making, therefore, must be viewed through the lens of the information and understanding available at the time, acknowledging that even well-intentioned plans can be thwarted by the unpredictable nature of the wilderness. Crucially, the analysis of any biological traces within the tent is paramount. Beyond DNA, consider the possibility of trace evidence such as pollen, soil samples, or even insect fragments that could indicate the specific environment the tent was in before being sealed, or perhaps the conditions immediately surrounding its final use. Think about how forensic entomologists can determine time of death and location based on insect life cycles. Similarly, botanical evidence could pinpoint seasonal conditions or specific habitats the couple had visited. This microscopic level of forensic investigation can provide corroborating evidence for or challenge the broader narrative being constructed, adding granular detail to the timeline and the sequence of events. The societal and psychological ramifications of prolonged uncertainty, particularly for the families of the vanished couple, represent a profound layer of this enduring mystery. For 30 years, these loved ones have navigated life under the shadow of an unresolved absence. This isn't merely about the absence of a physical presence, it's the absence of closure, of definitive answers that allow for genuine grieving and eventual acceptance. Consider the agonizing process of celebrating milestones, birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, knowing a crucial part of their family unit is missing, their fate unknown. This creates a unique form of psychological burden, often termed ambiguous loss, where the lack of finality prevents the natural progression through the stages of grief. Now imagine the constant flicker of hope rekindled by every rumor or potential sighting, only to be extinguished again, a cycle of emotional torment that can profoundly impact mental health, relationships, and overall well-being. The media's role, while often driven by a public fascination with such mysteries, can also exacerbate this pain, turning a private tragedy into a prolonged public spectacle. Furthermore, the discovery of the tent, while offering potential answers, simultaneously reopens old wounds and introduces new complexities. The forensic examination, while scientifically crucial, is also deeply personal for the families. Each artifact, each piece of trace evidence, represents a tangible link to their loved one's final moments, a reminder of their vulnerability and the ultimate fate they met. Think about the emotional weight of having to revisit these intimate details, to confront evidence that might confirm their worst fears, or perhaps offer a narrative that is difficult to reconcile with their memories of the individuals. This moment of revelation, while sought after for decades, can be a deeply traumatic experience, forcing a confrontation with a reality that has been held at bay by the sheer power of not knowing. The process of piecing together the final days, even with concrete evidence, can be a painful reconstruction of a life that was tragically cut short. The broader societal fascination with disappearances in the wilderness, and this case in particular, speaks to a deeper human engagement with the sublime and the terrifying aspects of nature. Yosemite, as an iconic landscape, amplifies this, representing both the pinnacle of natural beauty and an environment capable of overwhelming human endeavors. Consider how stories of individuals lost in vast natural settings resonate across cultures and throughout history, tapping into primal fears and a sense of awe at nature's indifference. This fascination is not morbid curiosity alone. It's also an exploration of human resilience, the limits of preparedness, and our ongoing relationship with the wild, untamed aspects of our planet. Now reflect on how these narratives serve as cautionary tales, reminding us of our own vulnerability and the respect that nature demands. They prompt introspection about our own desires for adventure and our willingness to push boundaries, all while underscoring the fundamental truth that nature ultimately operates on its own terms. The enduring legacy of such disappearances also influences park management and safety protocols. The lessons learned from these cases, even those that remain partially unsolved, contribute to evolving strategies for search and rescue, visitor education, and wilderness area management. Think about how advancements in GPS technology, satellite communication, and even the widespread adoption of personal locator beacons have revolutionized wilderness safety since the mid-1990s. While these tools offer greater security, they also highlight the inherent risks that persist, particularly in areas with limited connectivity. Consequently, every such incident, regardless of its resolution, serves as a data point, contributing to a cumulative understanding of how to better equip and inform those who venture into these powerful natural environments. Moreover, the concept of ambiguous loss extends beyond the immediate family to a wider circle of friends and acquaintances who have also carried the weight of this unresolved mystery. Their connection, while perhaps less intense, still represents a shared experience of absence and a lingering question mark. Consider the impact on those who knew the couple casually, or even those who were part of the initial search efforts. For them, the disappearance likely became a significant, albeit often unspoken, event in their lives. The discovery, therefore, offers a potential for collective acknowledgement and, eventually, a shared path toward understanding and remembrance, even if the answers are difficult to bear. The very nature of the cave as a discovery site, rather than an open-air campsite, introduces a distinct set of challenges and interpretations regarding the couple's final decisions. Now consider how the act of seeking shelter within a confined subterranean space, especially one potentially difficult to access, implies a level of intentionality that differs significantly from setting up a tent on a visible, accessible spot. This might suggest a perceived need for more robust protection from the elements, or perhaps an effort to remain concealed for reasons yet unknown. Picture a scenario where a sudden violent storm necessitates finding immediate, substantial cover. A cave, with its natural walls and ceiling, would offer a far greater sense of security than a freestanding tent exposed to wind and rain. Conversely, if the cave was chosen for its remoteness, it could indicate a desire to isolate themselves, perhaps to avoid detection or to experience a profound level of solitude. Furthermore, the geological characteristics of the cave itself become a critical piece of the puzzle. Was it a shallow overhang, offering minimal protection, or a deep, expansive cavern? The presence of any natural formations within the cave, such as ledges or alcoves, might have influenced how the tent was positioned or stored. For instance, a natural shelf could have been used to neatly place the tent, suggesting a more organized departure, whereas a more haphazard placement might point to haste or distress. Now, think about how the topography surrounding the cave entrance plays a role. Was the approach steep and treacherous, requiring considerable effort, or was it relatively straightforward? This would influence theories about the couple's physical condition and their ability to transport their belongings. The very act of discovering a cave, often hidden from casual view, requires a keen eye for subtle geological anomalies or shifts in vegetation, hinting at a deliberate search for such a feature. The contents found within the tent, in relation to the cave's environment, also offer crucial insights. If items were found meticulously packed, as if for storage, it suggests a conscious decision to leave them behind. Conversely, if the tent appeared as if it had been hastily abandoned, with items strewn about, it could imply an unexpected event or a rapid departure. Now consider the possibility that the cave itself served a dual purpose, not only as shelter, but also as a temporary storage for their gear while they perhaps explored a more challenging adjacent area. This would imply a plan for return, a strategy that, for reasons unknown, was never realized. The state of the tent's zipper, whether it was fully closed, partially open, or even damaged, can also provide subtle clues about its last moments of use. Moreover, the concept of sealing the tent takes on added significance when considered within a cave context. If the tent was, for example, tightly zipped and then perhaps covered with natural materials found within the cave, such as fallen leaves or debris, it would suggest a deliberate attempt to preserve its contents and protect them from any potential moisture or animal activity within the cave environment. This level of care could indicate an intention to return or a desire to leave a secure cache. Now, imagine the effort involved in carefully arranging and then concealing a tent within a natural enclosure. This action requires a certain level of foresight and a degree of planning, even in a survival scenario. The absence of any signs of disturbance within the cave, such as animal nesting or water damage to the tent, further reinforces the idea that this location served as a protected, undisturbed repository. The very fact that the tent was discovered within a cave rather than in an open area fundamentally alters the narrative of their final hours. It shifts the focus from a potential mishap on a trail or an open campsite to a more deliberate, perhaps strategic, choice of location. Now consider how this might imply a deeper understanding of the wilderness, a knowledge of its hidden shelters, or a response to a specific threat that drove them to seek out such a confined space. The cave, in this context, becomes more than just a discovery site. It becomes a silent witness, holding within its geological embrace the final chapter of their story, a chapter that begins with the deliberate act of seeking shelter. The specific forensic analysis of the tent's fabric and construction, beyond merely its age, can reveal critical details about its origin and the couple's purchasing habits, offering a window into their preparedness and perhaps their financial situation. Consider the evolution of outdoor gear manufacturing in the early 1990s. Advancements in materials science were leading to lighter, more durable fabrics. Identifying the brand and specific model of the tent, if possible, could allow experts to research its intended use. Was it designed for casual camping or for demanding alpine conditions? Now, imagine the detective work involved in tracing the tent's history, checking retail records, consulting with outdoor gear historians, or even examining period camping magazines for advertisements. Such details, seemingly minor, can contribute to a more holistic understanding of the couple's approach to their adventure. For instance, if it was a high-end expedition-grade tent, it would suggest a significant investment in their pursuit and a high level of anticipated challenge. Conversely, a more basic model might indicate a more casual approach, perhaps underestimating the rigor of Yosemite's backcountry. Furthermore, the examination of any residual substances on the tent, both inside and out, provides layers of context. Beyond biological material, think about microscopic traces of specific minerals unique to certain geological areas within Yosemite, or even pollen from flora found only at particular elevations or microclimates. Now consider how a forensic geologist might analyze soil particles adhering to the tent's seams, potentially indicating where it was last pitched or stored before being placed in the cave. Similarly, botanical experts could identify specific plant species whose pollen might have become embedded in the fabric, providing clues about the immediate environment surrounding the tent's final resting place. This level of granular forensic detail moves beyond broad assumptions, allowing for a more precise reconstruction of the couple's movements and the conditions they encountered. It's like finding a single, out-of-place grain of sand on a beach, which, upon closer inspection, reveals it originated from a distant, specific shoreline. The internal arrangement of the tent's contents, if any were found, offers a unique opportunity to infer the couple's final actions and priorities. Were sleeping bags neatly rolled, suggesting an intention to return or a period of rest, or were they haphazardly stuffed, implying a hasty departure? Now, picture the subtle narrative conveyed by the placement of personal effects. A book left open face down might indicate an interruption during reading, while a compass positioned beside a map could suggest an ongoing navigation effort. Even the state of their clothing, whether neatly folded or discarded, can offer insights into their mindset. Were they meticulously preparing for a prolonged stay in the cave, or were they in the process of packing to leave when something occurred? This intimate glimpse into their personal organization, or lack thereof, can be profoundly telling about their state of mind and the sequence of events leading to their final moments. Moreover, the specific method by which the tent was sealed within the cave provides crucial interpretive data. Was it simply zipped shut, or was it secured with additional materials like ropes, tarps, or even natural debris gathered from the cave itself? Now consider the difference in implication. A simple zip suggests standard storage, perhaps preparing for a brief absence. However, if external materials were used to create a more robust seal, it points to a more deliberate act of preservation, potentially indicating an intention to leave the tent for an extended period or to protect it from a specific threat within the cave environment, such as moisture or animal intrusion. This could even suggest a conscious decision to cache their belongings securely while they ventured further, perhaps with the expectation of returning. The very nature of this sealing process becomes a silent testament to their planning or their desperation. Another vital aspect to consider is the potential for the tent itself to have been subjected to environmental factors within the cave prior to its discovery. While found sealed, subtle signs of degradation or alteration could still be present. Think about the impact of prolonged exposure to darkness, varying humidity levels, or even minute seismic activity within the cave system. Now imagine forensic textile specialists examining the fabric for microscopic tears, discoloration, or weakening of fibers that might have occurred over the decades, even with the tent sealed. These subtle changes, if detectable, could provide clues about the cave's specific microclimate and the conditions the tent endured, offering a more nuanced understanding of its preservation. The specific geological context of the cave's discovery, beyond its mere existence, offers a critical lens through which to interpret the couple's final actions and the tent's preservation. Now consider how the cave's precise location within Yosemite's vast topography might illuminate their route and their decision-making process. Was it situated at a significant elevation, suggesting they had ascended a challenging trail, or perhaps nestled within a less traveled canyon, implying a deliberate deviation from any known path? Examining topographical maps from the era, cross-referenced with the cave's discovered coordinates, could reveal potential routes they might have taken, highlighting areas of increased difficulty or isolation. This granular geographical analysis allows us to reconstruct their journey leading up to their final moments, transforming abstract wilderness into a tangible landscape of choices and challenges. Furthermore, the internal structure and microclimate of the cave itself played an undeniable role in the tent's remarkable preservation. Think about how certain caves, due to their depth, insulation, and consistent temperature, can act as natural time capsules, shielding organic materials from the rapid degradation typically associated with exposure to sunlight, fluctuating temperatures, and biological agents like fungi and bacteria. Now consider the possibility that the specific atmospheric conditions within this particular cave, perhaps a stable, cool, and relatively dry environment, significantly slowed the decomposition of the tent's fabric and any associated materials. This natural preservation factor is crucial, as it explains why an artifact that might have otherwise disintegrated over 3 decades remained largely intact, providing a more reliable source of potential evidence. The very act of sealing the tent, when viewed through the lens of a cave environment, takes on a nuanced meaning. Rather than a simple closure against the elements, it might have been a deliberate effort to create a more controlled environment within the cave itself. Picture this. The couple, finding shelter in the cave, might have meticulously zipped the tent shut and then perhaps used natural cave materials, fallen debris, loose soil, or even strategically placed rocks to further insulate it, creating a barrier against any potential drafts, moisture seepage, or the intrusion of cave-dwelling organisms. This level of meticulousness, if present, would suggest a conscious effort to protect their belongings, possibly with the intention of returning to retrieve them or to secure them as a cache while they undertook a separate, perhaps more perilous, excursion from the cave's entrance. Another crucial layer of understanding involves the potential for trace evidence within the cave system, extending beyond the immediate vicinity of the tent. Now consider how geological surveys of the cave might have revealed evidence of past human activity, animal habitation, or even natural events like rockfalls that could have occurred after the couple's disappearance. If, for instance, the cave entrance showed signs of having been altered by a rockfall sometime after 1994, it could explain why the tent remained undiscovered for so long, effectively sealing it off from any potential search efforts. Conversely, evidence of prior ancient human use of the cave might suggest a pattern of seeking shelter in such locations, placing the couple's actions within a broader historical context of human interaction with the wilderness. Finally, the precise nature of the tent's placement within the cave is paramount. Was it simply dropped, or was it deliberately set up, perhaps even anchored in some way? Think about how a tent pitched for overnight use might be staked into the ground for stability. If the tent was found in such a configuration within the cave, it would strongly suggest that the couple intended to spend a significant period of time there, perhaps sheltering from an extended period of adverse weather or waiting for conditions to improve. This detail moves beyond mere storage. It implies an active use of the cave as a temporary living space, and the tent as their primary dwelling within that natural shelter, offering a more vivid picture of their final days. The meticulous examination of the tent's material composition and construction techniques offers a deeper insight into the couple's preparedness and their specific choices regarding outdoor equipment. Now, consider how advancements in outdoor gear manufacturing during the early 1990s were rapidly evolving, with new synthetic fabrics offering improved durability, water resistance, and weight reduction compared to traditional canvas or cotton. Identifying the tent's specific brand and model, if possible, could provide a wealth of information. Experts could research its intended use. Was it designed for casual weekend camping or engineered for demanding alpine expeditions? This level of detail can illuminate whether the couple invested in high-performance gear, suggesting a serious commitment to tackling challenging terrain, or if they opted for more basic equipment, potentially indicating an underestimation of the wilderness's demands. For instance, a tent with advanced seam taping technology and a robust geodesic pole structure would speak volumes about their expectations for adverse weather, whereas a simpler dome tent might suggest a more casual approach. Furthermore, the analysis of any residual substances on the tent's exterior can provide crucial geographical and temporal context. Think about how microscopic mineral fragments or unique pollen types, specific to particular geological formations or ecological zones within Yosemite, might have become embedded in the fabric over time. Now, consider the work of a forensic geologist who could analyze these minute particles, potentially pinpointing the exact areas the tent had been exposed to before being placed in the cave. Similarly, botanical experts might identify specific plant species whose pollen could have adhered to the fabric, offering clues about the immediate environment surrounding the tent's last known location or the cave itself. This granular forensic data moves beyond conjecture, allowing for a more precise reconstruction of the couple's movements and the environmental conditions they encountered, akin to a detective finding a specific type of soil on a suspect's shoe that matches a crime scene. The internal arrangement of the tent's contents, if any were found, offers a unique opportunity to infer the couple's final actions and priorities. Picture this. Sleeping bags neatly rolled might suggest an intention to return or a period of rest, while haphazardly stuffed items could imply a hasty departure. Now consider the subtle narrative conveyed by the placement of personal effects. A book left open face down might indicate an interruption during reading, whereas a compass strategically positioned beside a map could signal ongoing navigation efforts. Even the state of their clothing, whether meticulously folded or simply discarded, can offer insights into their state of mind. Were they preparing for a prolonged stay within the cave, or were they in the process of packing to leave when an unforeseen event occurred? This intimate glimpse into their organizational habits, or lack thereof, can be profoundly telling about their mindset and the sequence of events leading to their final moments. Moreover, the specific method by which the tent was sealed within the cave takes on a nuanced meaning when viewed in this context. Rather than a simple closure against external elements, it might have represented a deliberate effort to create a more controlled environment within the cave itself. Think about the possibility that the couple meticulously zipped the tent shut and then used natural cave materials, such as fallen debris or loose soil, to further insulate it, creating a barrier against potential drafts, moisture, or cave-dwelling organisms. This level of meticulousness, if evident, would suggest a conscious effort to protect their belongings, possibly with the intention of returning to retrieve them or to secure them as a cache while they undertook a separate excursion. The very act of carefully arranging and then concealing a tent within a natural enclosure requires foresight and planning, even in a survival scenario. The discovery of the tent within the cave, rather than on an open trail or exposed campsite, fundamentally alters our understanding of the couple's final days, suggesting a deliberate seeking of more profound shelter. Now, consider how the cave's specific geological features, its depth, the stability of its rock formations, and the presence of any natural insulation like thick moss or accumulated sediment would have dictated its efficacy as a long-term refuge. A shallow overhang might offer respite from a brief shower, but a deeper cavern, potentially shielded from wind and temperature extremes, presents a far more compelling argument for intentional occupation. Picture the difference between seeking temporary cover under a large tree during a sudden downpour versus establishing a more permanent camp within a well-protected rock shelter, implying a conscious decision to weather a more significant environmental challenge or to remain concealed for an extended period. This choice of location inherently suggests a higher degree of awareness of the wilderness's potential hazards and a more proactive approach to survival. Furthermore, the very act of sealing the tent, when interpreted within the context of a cave environment, takes on added layers of meaning. Rather than simply closing it against the elements, it might represent a deliberate attempt to create a more controlled micro-environment within the cave itself. Think about the possibility that the couple meticulously zip the tent shut and then utilize natural cave materials, perhaps fallen leaves, loose soil, or strategically placed rocks, to further insulate it, thereby creating a barrier against potential drafts, moisture seepage, or the intrusion of cave-dwelling organisms. This level of meticulousness, if evident, would suggest a conscious effort to protect their belongings, possibly with the intention of returning to retrieve them or to secure them as a cache, while they undertook a separate, perhaps more perilous, excursion from the cave's entrance. The very act of carefully arranging and then concealing a tent within a natural enclosure requires foresight and planning, even in a survival scenario. Another crucial layer of understanding involves the potential for trace evidence within the cave system, extending beyond the immediate vicinity of the tent. Now consider how geological surveys of the cave might reveal evidence of past human activity, animal habitation, or even natural events like rockfalls that could have occurred after the couple's disappearance. If, for instance, the cave entrance showed signs of having been altered by a rockfall sometime after 1994, it could explain why the tent remained undiscovered for so long, effectively sealing it off from any potential search efforts. Conversely, evidence of prior, ancient human use of the cave might suggest a pattern of seeking shelter in such locations, placing the couple's actions within a broader historical context of human interaction with the wilderness, hinting at an ingrained instinct for utilizing such natural havens. Finally, the precise nature of the tent's placement within the cave is paramount. Was it simply dropped, or was it deliberately set up, perhaps even anchored in some way? Think about how a tent pitched for overnight use might be staked into the ground for stability. If the tent was found in such a configuration within the cave, it would strongly suggest that the couple intended to spend a significant period of time there, perhaps sheltering from an extended period of adverse weather or waiting for conditions to improve. This detail moves beyond mere storage. It implies an active use of the cave as a temporary living space and the tent as their primary dwelling within that natural shelter, offering a more vivid picture of their final days and their resourcefulness in adapting to their environment. Reflecting on this journey so far, we've navigated the initial allure of the wilderness, the immense challenges of its vastness, and the profound impact of an enduring mystery. The threads of adventure, the painstaking efforts of discovery, and the silent testimony of preserved artifacts have woven a complex tapestry. As we move towards a final contemplation, it becomes clear that the narrative transcends the simple recounting of events. It delves into the very essence of human resilience, the limits of our endeavors against the raw power of nature, and the enduring echoes of lives lived and perhaps tragically concluded. The convergence of these explored ideas, from the scientific rigor of forensic analysis to the deeply human aspect of prolonged uncertainty, creates a powerful resonance, a sense of culmination that prepares us for a broader perspective. It's akin to watching disparate elements coalesce, forming a pattern that was not immediately apparent, but, in retrospect, possesses an inherent logic and profound significance. The insights gleaned from 30 years of silence, punctuated by an astonishing revelation, now invite us to consider the larger implications, the universal truths that emerge from such a deeply personal and ultimately enigmatic human experience. These accumulated understandings, like tributaries flowing into a larger river, now converge, guiding us towards a point of synthesis where the individual story speaks to a more universal human condition. As we pivot towards the final reflection, the landscape of facts and emotions we have traversed allows us to perceive the enduring questions and the profound lessons that linger, shaping our understanding of our place within the grand, often untamed theatre of existence. The path forward towards a concluding perspective is illuminated by the cumulative weight of these explorations, suggesting a deeper appreciation for the complexities that lie at the intersection of human aspiration and the immutable forces of the natural world. The story of the vanished couple, unearthed from the silent depths of Yosemite, serves as a potent, almost elemental reminder of humanity's enduring dialogue with the wild. It's a narrative that began with the siren call of adventure, a testament to our innate drive to explore the unknown, to test our limits against the sublime indifference of nature. Yet, as we have seen, this pursuit, while noble in its intent, carries inherent risks, a delicate dance on the precipice of the untamed. The discovery, 3 decades later, of their sealed tent within a hidden cave transforms a tale of absence into a profound artifact of existence, a frozen moment that speaks volumes across the chasm of time. This unearthed sanctuary, preserved by the very wilderness that challenged them, offers not definitive answers, but rather a deeper understanding of the ephemeral nature of our presence in such grand, indifferent landscapes. This enduring mystery, amplified by the forensic whispers of a preserved tent, compels us to reflect on the stories etched into the fabric of our world. Stories often hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. It highlights the profound respect nature commands, a respect born not of fear, but of an acknowledgement of its immense unyielding power and its capacity for both creation and concealment. The grief of their loved ones, a testament to the enduring bonds of human connection, underscores the deep impact of unresolved loss, a wound that time can soften but never fully erase. This narrative, therefore, becomes more than just a chronicle of a disappearance. It is a meditation on memory, on the persistence of love, and on the quiet dignity of lives lived, even when their final chapters remain shrouded in enigma. Ultimately, the enduring power of this story lies not in the resolution of its mysteries, but in the questions it provokes within us. It encourages a thoughtful consideration of our own relationship with the natural world, urging a balance between our thirst for adventure and a profound respect for the environments we seek to explore. The true practice begins now to carry the lessons of their journey, to approach the wild with humility and preparedness, and to remember that even in the face of the unknown, the human spirit's capacity for courage, love, and remembrance continues to resonate. Yosemite, in its breathtaking beauty and its silent guardianship, holds not just the echoes of their story, but a timeless reflection of our own place within the grand, unfolding narrative of existence.